The pharmacy's fluorescent lights buzzed overhead like angry hornets as I stood at the counter. My daughter Sofia's small hand clutched in mine. The pharmacist, a middle-aged woman with kind eyes that had seen too many people like me, shook her head slowly. "I'm sorry, Miss Chen. Without insurance, the EpiPens are $320 each, and the albuterol inhaler is another $85. My throat tightened. "I need both. She has severe asthma and allergies. She can't go to school without them." The pharmacist glanced down at Sofia, who was trying to be brave, her 6-year-old face scrunched up with the effort of not crying. "I understand, but can I pay half now? I get paid on Friday, that's just 3 days away." "Hospital policy requires full payment for controlled medications. I'm truly sorry." Sofia tugged on my sleeve. "Mommy, it's okay. I don't need to go to school." The words shattered something inside me. My daughter, who loved learning more than anything, who drew pictures of molecules and asked questions about why the sky changed colors, was willing to give up school because I couldn't afford to keep her alive. If you're enjoying this story so far, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe. Drop a comment telling me where in the world you're watching from. I love hearing from you. I pulled Sofia close, breathing in the strawberry scent of her shampoo, the cheap dollar store kind that was all we could afford now. "Baby, you're going to school. Mommy will figure it out." But I had no idea how. The math was brutal and unforgiving. My checking account held exactly $42.16. Rent was due in 5 days. I'd already sold everything worth selling: my laptop, my grandmother's jewelry, the car that had died 3 months ago anyway. We were living in a studio apartment in Pilsen, Chicago's rapidly gentrifying neighborhood, where we were clinging to affordability by our fingernails. "Can I at least get the inhaler?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. "Just that one?" The pharmacist's expression softened with pity that felt like acid on my skin. "Of course." I counted out the cash, watching my safety net dissolve. $42 became $0. The EpiPens would have to wait. I'd just have to make sure Sofia didn't encounter any bees, any peanuts, any of the dozen things that could send her into anaphylactic shock. As if life worked that way. As if poverty gave you the luxury of caution. We walked out into the August heat, the kind that rose from the pavement in waves and made breathing feel like drowning. Sofia's hand was sticky in mine, and I could hear the slight wheeze in her breath that meant the current inhaler was nearly empty. "Ice cream?" Sofia asked hopefully, pointing to the corner bodega. "Not today, baby." "Because we don't have money?" The matter-of-fact way she said it gutted me. She was 6. She should be worrying about dolls and cartoons, not our bank balance. "We're saving up," I said, the lie tasting like copper. "For something special." Sofia nodded, accepting this with the resigned wisdom of a child who'd learned too young that wanting and having were different universes. We walked the 6 blocks home because the bus cost $2.50 each, and that felt like a fortune. Sofia chattered about her best friend Emma, about the science project they were planning, about the library book she'd finished. I made the appropriate sounds, but my mind was spinning through increasingly desperate options. I couldn't ask my mother. She'd disowned me when I got pregnant at 22 by a man she'd warned me about. She'd been right, of course. David had stayed just long enough to sign away his parental rights before disappearing to Seattle with his new girlfriend. I hadn't heard from him in 4 years. I had no siblings, no family except Sofia. My friends from college had drifted away when I dropped out to work full-time. The other waitresses at the diner, where I worked, were just as broke as me. Our apartment building came into view, a 3-story brick structure that had been beautiful once, maybe 70 years ago. Now it sagged with neglect, its windows patched with duct tape, its front steps cracked and treacherous. "Can I play outside?" Sofia asked as we climbed the stairs. 30 minutes. Stay where I can see you from the window." She nodded and ran to join 2 other children, drawing with sidewalk chalk in front of the building. I watched from our second-floor window as Sofia settled onto the concrete, her inhaler tucked safely in her small backpack, her laughter rising up like music. My phone buzzed. A text from my boss at the diner. "Can't give you the Friday shift. Slow week." "Sorry." I stared at the message, feeling the walls close in. Friday's shift meant tips. Tips meant food, meant keeping the lights on, meant maybe saving enough for the EpiPens by next week. Without Friday, I was dead in the water. My hands shook as I typed back. "Please, I really need those hours." The response came immediately. "Wish I could. Already promised to Jessica." I set the phone down before I threw it. The studio apartment seemed to shrink around me, 400 square feet containing everything we owned. A futon that served as couch and bed. A hot plate because the stove didn't work. Clothes folded in milk crates. Sofia's drawings taped to every wall. Bright crayon worlds where princesses were scientists and dragons were friendly. The eviction notice was tucked under a coffee mug. I didn't need to look at it. I'd memorized every word. Failure to pay rent by August 28th will result in immediate eviction proceedings. August 28th. 3 days away. I pressed my forehead against the window, watching Sofia laugh with the other children. She was drawing something elaborate, her tongue poking out in concentration the way it did when she was focused. She looked happy. She looked like a normal kid having a normal afternoon. She had no idea we were drowning. The sun was setting when Sofia came upstairs, her knees scraped and dirty, her smile wide. "Mommy, look what I drew." She showed me her phone photo of the sidewalk, an elaborate chalk mural of the solar system, each planet carefully labeled with facts she'd learned from library books. "It's beautiful, baby." Emma's mom took a picture. She said I should be an astronaut. "You can be anything you want." The words felt like a betrayal. How could she be anything when we couldn't afford the medicine that kept her alive? When I couldn't even keep a roof over our heads? Sofia bounced to the bathroom to wash up, and I returned to the window, watching the street below as the neighborhood transitioned from day to evening. Streetlights flickered on. Families went inside. Cars passed with their headlights cutting through the dusk. And then I saw the vehicle. Preparing and narrating this type of story took us long efforts and hard work. So if you are enjoying the story, please consider subscribing to our channel. A black SUV, sleek and expensive, completely out of place on our shabby street. It rolled to a stop directly in front of our building. Tinted windows, chrome accents that gleamed under the streetlights. The kind of car that cost more than I'd earn in 5 years. I watched, uneasy prickling my spine, as the back door opened. A man stepped out. Even from 2 floors up, I could tell he was different. The way he moved unhurried but purposeful. Like someone who'd never had to rush because the world waited for him. Dark suit that probably cost more than my entire wardrobe. Hair perfectly styled. Broad shoulders that filled the doorway of the SUV. He stood on the sidewalk, looking up and down the street as if cataloging every detail. A second man emerged from the driver's seat, obvious security, hand resting inside his jacket in a way that made my stomach clench. They were too clean for this neighborhood, too polished, too dangerous. I should have stepped away from the window, should have closed the curtains, but something held me there, watching as the first man's gaze swept upward, scanning the building. For one heart-stopping moment, his eyes met mine. Distance and fading light made his features unclear, but I felt the impact of that gaze like a physical thing, intent, assessing, interested. Then Sofia called from the bathroom, "Mommy, there's no hot water again," and I stepped back, breaking the connection. When I looked again 30 seconds later, the SUV was pulling away, disappearing around the corner like it had never been there at all. "Mommy, I'm hungry." Sofia stood in the kitchen area, really just a corner of the studio with a mini fridge and hot plate looking at me with those dark eyes that saw too much. I opened the fridge. Half a loaf of bread, 2 eggs, a container of yogurt that expired yesterday. In the cabinet, ramen noodles, peanut butter, half a jar of pasta sauce. "How about spaghetti?" I said brightly. "We had spaghetti yesterday. Different sauce this time." Sofia didn't argue. She'd learned not to. She settled at our small folding table and pulled out a coloring book from the library while I boiled water for pasta on the hot plate. My phone buzzed again. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but desperation makes you do stupid things. And maybe, just maybe, it was someone offering a job, a shift, anything. "Hello? Is this Lily Chen?" A woman's voice, professional and crisp. "Yes. I'm calling from Street Anthony's Medical Center. Your daughter Sofia was seen in our emergency room 6 weeks ago for an asthma attack." My stomach dropped. "Yes. You have an outstanding balance of $2,417. We've sent multiple notices." "I know. I'm working on it." "Miss Chen, the account has been sent to collections. If we don't receive payment within 7 days, we'll be forced to pursue legal action." "Legal action?" As if I had anything left to take. "I understand," I said numbly. I'll figure something out." I hung up before she could say more. $2,417. Added to the $320 I needed for medicine. Added to the $1,200 in rent. Added to the electricity bill, the phone bill, the water bill. The math was impossible. A wall too high to climb. Sofia looked up from her coloring. "Who was that?" "Nobody, baby. Just a wrong number. She returned to her coloring book, and I turned back to the pasta, stirring mechanically while my mind spun through scenarios, each more desperate than the last. I could try to sell plasma. That paid maybe $50, nowhere near enough. I could look for a second job, but who would watch Sofia while I worked? Childcare cost more than I'd earn. I could. A knock at the door interrupted my spiraling thoughts. We never got knocks. The mailman left packages downstairs. The landlord just slipped notices under the door. The few neighbors we knew would call first. Stay there, I told Sofia, moving to the door. Through the peephole, I saw a man in a suit. Not the building super. Not anyone I recognized. Who is it? I called through the door. Miss Chen? My name is Victor Russo. I'd like to speak with you about a business proposition. Every instinct screamed danger. Men in suits didn't knock on doors in buildings like this with business propositions unless the business was drugs, sex work, or something equally dark. I'm not interested. It concerns your daughter's medical needs. My hand froze on the deadbolt. How do you know about my daughter? Miss Chen, I assure you my employer means no harm. Quite the opposite. May I come in? Just for 5 minutes. Sofia had stopped coloring, watching me with worried eyes. I should have told him to leave. Should have called the police, though what they'd do was questionable. Should have done anything except what I did. I opened the door. The man was in. His 40s, graying at the temples, with the kind of neutral expression that came from years of keeping secrets. His suit was expensive but not flashy. His hands stayed visible, palms forward in a gesture of peace. Thank you, he said. I promise this won't take long. He stepped inside, and I was hyper-aware of how small our apartment was, how shabby it must look to someone wearing $1,000 shoes. His gaze swept the room, the futon, the folding table, Sofia's drawings on the walls, but his expression never changed. Who are you? I asked, positioning myself between him and Sofia. I work for someone who noticed your situation at the pharmacy this afternoon. He'd like to help. Why? He has his reasons. They're personal. Nobody helps for free. You're correct. Victor reached into his jacket and I tensed, but he only pulled out an envelope. My employer would like to offer you $25,000. The number was so absurd I almost laughed. For what? For nothing. No strings. No expectations. Just... He paused, seeming to choose his words carefully. Consider it an investment in your daughter's future. I stared at the envelope. $25,000 would solve everything. Medicine, rent, hospital bills, food, breathing room for the first time in years. It was too much. Too good. Too suspicious. What's the catch? No catch. My employer is a businessman who believes in, let's call it strategic generosity. He helps people who need help. Sometimes those people remember the kindness. Sometimes they don't. Either way, the money is yours. Strategic generosity, I repeated. That's a nice way of saying he's buying favors. Victor's lips quirked. Miss Chen, if you don't want the money. I didn't say that. Because I didn't. Because Sofia wheezed quietly at the table behind me, and I had $42 to my name, and the eviction notice was 3 days away. Who is he? I asked. Your employer. Someone who prefers to remain anonymous for now. But he'd like to meet you. Tomorrow evening. There's a restaurant in River North Valerio's. 8 p.m. Come alone. Sofia will be perfectly safe with a vetted sitter we'll provide. Everything about this screamed trap, but everything about my current situation screamed desperation. Victor set the envelope on the counter. This is $5,000. Consider it a down payment. The rest comes after the meeting tomorrow night. If you decide not to come, keep the $5,000. No obligation. He moved toward the door, then paused. Miss Chen, I understand your hesitation. But I promise you, my employer means you and your daughter no harm. Quite the opposite. Why us? Why Sofia? Something flickered in Victor's eyes. Sympathy, maybe. Or memory. Because, he said quietly, she reminds him of someone he lost. Someone he couldn't save. Then he was gone, the door clicking shut behind him, leaving me staring at an envelope that held more money than I'd seen in years. Sofia appeared at my elbow. Mommy? Who was that man? I don't know, baby. I picked up the envelope with shaking hands. Inside were 50 crisp $100 bills. Real. Tangible. Life-changing. Or life-ending, depending on who'd sent them. I looked at Sofia, at her hopeful face, at the inhaler peeking from her backpack, At the medical alert bracelet she wore constantly because we couldn't afford the EpiPens. Tomorrow evening, 8 p.m., Valerio's restaurant. I had 24 hours to decide if I was desperate enough to meet a dangerous stranger who knew too much about my life and offered solutions that seemed too good to be true. 24 hours to decide if I was willing to trade one kind of danger for another. I looked at the money again. Felt its weight. Already knew what choice I'd make. I spent the next day in a fog of anxiety and desperate preparation. The $5,000 sat in my purse like a live grenade, too dangerous to use, too valuable to ignore. I'd called the pharmacy first thing that morning, my voice shaking as I asked them to fill Sofia's prescriptions. The pharmacist remembered me, and I could hear the relief in her voice. "I'm so glad you found a way, Miss Chen. I'll have everything ready by noon." By noon, Sofia had 2 EpiPens and 3 albuterol inhalers. She held them like treasures, not understanding why I cried when the pharmacist handed over the white paper bag. "Mommy, why are you sad? I thought medicine makes you happy." "I'm not sad, baby. These are happy tears." She looked skeptical but didn't push. 6 years old and already learning to navigate her mother's emotional landmines, I paid the rent next. Walked into the landlord's office and counted out $1,200 in cash. Mr. Kowalski's eyebrows shot up so high they nearly hit his receding hairline. "You hit the lottery or something, Lily." "Something like that." He gave me a receipt and didn't ask more questions. People in our neighborhood understood that sometimes money appeared in ways you didn't talk about. That left me with enough for groceries, utilities, and a modest cushion. But the remaining $20,000, the money Victor had promised after tonight's meeting, that was the real game changer. That was breathing room. That was security. That was the hook, and I knew it. By 7 p.m., I was standing in our tiny bathroom, staring at myself in the mirror and trying to figure out what you wear to meet a mysterious benefactor who might be a criminal. I owned exactly 3 outfits that weren't stained or worn through. Work clothes from the diner, a sundress I'd bought at Goodwill, and a black skirt and blouse I'd kept from my college days when I'd interviewed for internships that never materialized. I chose the skirt and blouse. Professional. Forgettable. Safe. Sofia was watching TV, sprawled on the futon with her new inhaler beside her like a talisman. The babysitter Victor had arranged was due any minute, a woman named Mrs. Alvarez, who'd come with a background check I'd verified online, references I'd called, and a gentle voice that had immediately put Sofia at ease during the phone interview. Still, leaving my daughter with a stranger sent every maternal instinct into overdrive. "Remember the rules," I said, kneeling beside Sofia. "Don't open the door for anyone except Mrs. Alvarez. Keep your phone charged. If anything feels weird, call 911, then call you," Sofia recited dutifully. "Mommy, I'll be fine. Mrs. Alvarez said she has a granddaughter my age. We're going to watch Encanto." The knock came at 7:30. Mrs. Alvarez was exactly as she'd sounded on the phone, late 60s. Kind eyes, grandmother energy that immediately filled the apartment with warmth. She carried a bag of art supplies and wore a medical alert bracelet of her own. "Type 1 diabetes," she explained when she saw me notice. 20 years managing it. "I know all about emergency medications, dear. Sofia will be perfectly safe." I wanted to believe her, needed to believe her. I kissed Sofia goodbye 3 times, made Mrs. Alvarez recite the emergency contacts back to me twice, and finally forced myself out the door at 7:45. The Uber I'd splurged on, my first in 2 years, wound through Chicago's streets as the city transformed around us. Pilsen's brick buildings gave way to the gleaming towers of River North, where restaurants charged more for a single entree than I'd spent on groceries in a month. Valerio's sat on a corner, all dark wood and soft lighting visible through floor-to-ceiling windows. The kind of place that didn't list prices on the menu because if you had to ask, you couldn't afford it. I paid the driver and stood on the sidewalk, paralyzed by the enormity of what I was about to do. A man in a black suit emerged from the restaurant's entrance. Not Victor, but cut from the same cloth, alert eyes, earpiece barely visible, hand resting near his jacket in that familiar way. "Chen?" I nodded, not trusting my voice. "This way, please." He led me inside, past the hostess stand where beautiful people waited for tables they'd probably reserved months ago. We moved through the main dining room, all leather booths and crystal chandeliers, and the quiet murmur of money, and toward the back, a private dining room, heavy door. Another security guard posted outside. The first guard opened the door, and I stepped into a space that felt like entering a different world. The room was intimate, maybe 20 feet across, with a single table set for 2. Candles flickered. A window overlooked the Chicago River, lights dancing on dark water. And at the table, rising to his feet as I entered, was the man from last night, the one who'd stepped from the black SUV, the one whose gaze had found mine through the dusk. Up close, he was devastating. Tall, easily 6'3", with dark hair silvered at the temples and olive skin that spoke of Mediterranean heritage. Maybe 40, maybe older. The kind of man who aged into handsomeness rather than out of it. His suit was midnight blue, perfectly tailored, and he wore it with the unconscious elegance of someone who'd never owned anything off the rack in his life. But it was his eyes that caught me. Dark, almost black, and holding an intensity that made my breath catch. Eyes that had seen things, done things, knew things that would probably terrify me. Miss Chen. His voice was deep, textured like aged whiskey. Thank you for coming. Please, sit. He gestured to the chair across from him, and I sat because my legs suddenly felt unreliable. Would you like wine? He asked. The Barolo is excellent. I don't drink. A slight smile. Smart. Then water? Coffee? Water is fine. He poured from a crystal carafe, his movements precise and controlled. Everything about him radiated control, from the way he moved to the way he watched me as if he was constantly calculating, assessing, 3 steps ahead of everyone else in the room. I'm sure you have questions, he said, settling back into his chair. Starting with who you are and why you're giving me money. Direct. I appreciate that. He took a sip of his wine. My name is Domenico Santoro. I own several businesses in Chicago: restaurants, real estate, import-export. I was at the pharmacy yesterday when I saw you with your daughter. You followed us home. I had Victor confirm your address. Yes. That's stalking. It's due diligence. No apology in his voice. I wanted to understand your situation before offering help. Why? The question hung between us. Domenico's expression shifted, something raw flickering beneath the controlled surface. 6 years ago, he said quietly, I lost my daughter, Gianna. She was 8 years old. She had severe asthma and a peanut allergy. I could afford the best doctors, the best treatments, everything money could buy. And it didn't matter. His hand tightened around his wine glass. She was at a birthday party. Someone brought cupcakes made with peanut oil. The EpiPen failed manufacturing defect, they said later. By the time the ambulance arrived, he didn't finish, didn't need to. My chest constricted. I'm sorry. When I saw your daughter yesterday, he continued, when I saw you at that pharmacy, desperate to afford medicine that should be a basic right, I saw every parent who's ever had to choose between keeping their child alive and keeping a roof over their head. And I thought, not this time. This time I can fix it. So this is charity. This is correction, he said firmly. The world is full of broken systems and people falling through the cracks. I have resources. I choose to use them. For strategic generosity, I quoted Victor's words. So people remember the kindness. Domenico's smile was sharp. You're perceptive. Yes, Miss Chen. I help people. Sometimes those people become assets, information, access, loyalty. Sometimes they're just grateful. Either outcome is acceptable to me. And which do you expect me to be? I expect you to be a mother who wants to keep her daughter safe. What happens beyond that is your choice. A server appeared with plates of food I hadn't ordered: ravioli in brown butter, sage sauce, Caesar salad, crusty bread that smelled like heaven. My stomach growled audibly. Please eat, Domenico said. You're too thin, Miss Chen. When did you last have a proper meal? I couldn't remember. Days, maybe. I'd been giving most of my food to Sofia, telling her I'd eaten at work when I hadn't. I took a bite of the ravioli and nearly wept. It was the best thing I'd tasted in months, maybe years. Domenico watched me eat with an expression I couldn't quite read. Satisfaction, maybe, or something deeper. Tell me about Sofia, he said. So I did. Between bites of food that felt like a religious experience, I told him about my brilliant, curious, resilient daughter, how she taught herself to read at 4, how she loved science and space and asked questions that made my head spin, how she drew constantly, covered our apartment walls in art, saw beauty in everything despite the poverty that surrounded us. She sounds remarkable, Domenico said. Like her mother. I'm not remarkable. I'm just trying not to drown. You're keeping a child alive, fed, educated, and happy on resources that would break most people. That's not just remarkable, Miss Chen. That's heroic. The praise felt dangerous, like he was building something between us, brick by careful brick. What do you really want? I asked. Nobody gives away $25,000 for nothing. Domenico leaned forward, his dark eyes locked on mine. I want to offer you a job. My foundation runs several community programs: after-school care, tutoring, meals for low-income families. We need someone to coordinate the Chicago branch. Salary is $60,000 a year plus health insurance. $60,000. More than double what I made at the diner. Health insurance. For Sofia. I don't have a degree. You have something more valuable. You understand the people we're trying to help because you're living their reality. You know what they need because you need it too. And if I say no to the job, do I keep the money? The $5,000 is yours regardless. The remaining $20,000 comes with the job offer. Consider it a signing bonus. If you're hooked on this story, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss an upload. Your support means everything and helps me bring you more emotional stories like this one. I studied his face, looking for the trap I knew had to be there. But all I saw was sincerity mixed with something else. Something proprietary. Why do I feel like this is about more than a job? Because you're intelligent. Domenico set down his wine glass. I'll be honest with you, Miss Chen. I have many business interests in Chicago, not all of them entirely conventional. I operate in gray areas. I make decisions that benefit my interests and the interests of those loyal to me. I'm telling you this because I don't deal in deception with people under my protection. Your protection. If you work for me, you and Sofia will be under my protection. That means medical care, security, resources. It also means association with me and my reputation. What reputation? His smile was cold. People call me many things: businessman, philanthropist, and less flattering terms I won't repeat in present company. The truth is complicated. You're Mafia. I said it bluntly, and he didn't flinch. That word carries baggage, he said. But yes, I'm connected to organizations that operate outside traditional legal frameworks. Does that frighten you? It should. But does it? I thought about the eviction notice, the empty fridge, Sofia's wheeze, the hospital bills, the crushing, suffocating weight of poverty that made every day a battle for survival. I'm more afraid of watching my daughter die because I can't afford to keep her alive, I said. Something fierce and approving flashed in Domenico's eyes. Then we understand each other. He drove me home himself. Not the SUV from last night, but a Mercedes sedan that probably cost more than my apartment building. He drove smoothly, competently, and didn't fill the silence with empty conversation. When we pulled up outside my building, he put the car in park but didn't turn off the engine. Victor will bring you a contract tomorrow. Read it carefully. Take time to decide. The offer stands for 1 week. And then I move on to helping someone else. But I hope you'll accept, Miss Chen. I think you'd be good at this work, and I think Sofia deserves a mother who isn't slowly killing herself trying to survive. The words hit harder than I expected. How do you know You're 28 years old and you look 40. You've lost at least 20 pounds you couldn't afford to lose. There are shadows under your eyes that say you don't sleep. You flinch when expensive cars drive by. You're living in survival mode, and survival mode has an expiration date. His bluntness should have offended me. Instead, it felt like relief. Like someone finally seeing the truth I'd been hiding even from myself. I'll read the contract, I said. Good. He reached into the console and pulled out a business card. My private number. Call anytime, day or night. If Sofia has an emergency, if you need anything, if you just want to talk, call. I took the card, feeling the weight of what he was offering. Protection, resources, a lifeline, a leash. Thank you for dinner, I said. And for the money. Whatever I decide about the job, thank you for the medicine. You're welcome, Lily. May I call you Lily? You already know everything about me. Seems silly to stand on formality. His smile was genuine this time, reaching his eyes. Then call me Nico. Domenico is for business associates and people I don't like. Nico, I tested. It felt intimate, dangerous. I opened the car door, then paused. Can I ask you something? Of course. That first night, when you looked up at my window, how did you know which apartment was mine? His expression shifted to something unreadable. I didn't, but when I saw you watching me, I knew. Mothers protecting their children have a very specific look. Recognition crossed between us. Recognition of what? Desperation meeting opportunity. Weakness meeting strength. Two people who could help each other if they were brave enough to try. I got out of the car and watched him drive away, his taillights disappearing into Chicago's night traffic. Upstairs, Mrs. Alvarez reported that Sofia had been perfect, eaten dinner, done some art, was now sleeping peacefully. I paid her from the cash in my purse, tipped generously, and thanked her profusely. When she left, I stood over Sofia's sleeping form, watching her chest rise and fall with easy breaths. Her new inhalers sat on the makeshift nightstand, and I felt a rush of gratitude so intense it hurt. Domenico Santoro Nico had done this. A stranger had seen my daughter's need and fixed it. No judgment, no demands, just resources deployed with surgical precision. What kind of man did that? What kind of dangerous, complicated man saw a struggling mother and decided to intervene? I pulled out his business card. Just his name and a phone number embossed in black on cream stock. No title, no company name. As if his name alone was sufficient. Maybe it was. I thought about his offer. $60,000 a year. Health insurance. Protection. I thought about his warning. Gray areas. Complicated reputation. Association with his world. I thought about Sofia, sleeping safely because a dangerous man had decided we mattered. By morning, I knew what my answer would be. Victor arrived at 10 a.m., with a leather portfolio containing the contract. I read every word while Sofia was at school, spread out on our futon with my phone beside me to Google terms I didn't understand. The contract was surprisingly straightforward. Employment agreement. Coordinator of community outreach for the Santoro Foundation. Salary, benefits, responsibilities all clearly outlined. A clause about confidentiality. I couldn't discuss foundation business with anyone outside the organization. A clause about termination. Either party could end the employment with 30 days' notice. Nothing sinister. Nothing that screamed trap. But then, the best traps never did. I signed at 3 p.m., my hand steady despite my racing heart. Victor witnessed the signature, produced the promised $20,000 in cash, and handed me a key. What's this? Your new apartment. 2-bedroom, secure building in Lincoln Park. Foundation housing for senior staff. You can move in any time. I stared at the key. Lincoln Park, one of the safest, nicest neighborhoods in Chicago. The kind of place where Sofia could play outside without me watching like a hawk. Where the schools were well-funded and the parks were clean and families didn't have to choose between rent and medicine. This is too much. Mr. Santoro believes his employees should live comfortably, especially those working directly with vulnerable communities. Victor's expression softened. He also believes Sofia deserves a bedroom of her own. That broke through my defenses. Sofia had never had her own room, had never had space that was just hers, decorated how she wanted, filled with her things. When can we move? The apartment is furnished and ready. Moving service can collect your belongings tomorrow if you'd like. It felt like a dream, like I'd fallen into someone else's life. There's one more thing, Victor said. He pulled out another envelope. Mr. Santoro asked me to give you this. Inside was a simple card with a handwritten note in elegant script. For Sofia's walls, every artist needs proper canvas. Clipped to the card was a check for $500. For art supplies. For my daughter who covered our shabby walls in crayon drawings because we couldn't afford paper. I pressed the card to my chest and let myself cry for the first time in months. Not from despair, but from overwhelming, terrifying relief. Victor politely pretended not to notice. We moved the next day. Sofia was ecstatic, running from room to room in our new apartment, marveling at her bedroom painted soft lavender, with a real bed and a desk and shelves waiting to be filled with books. Mommy, is this really ours? Really ours, baby. She threw herself into my arms, and I held her tight, breathing in her strawberry shampoo and thanking God and Domenico Santoro in equal measure. The foundation offices were in the loop, sleek and professional. My coworkers were dedicated, smart people who genuinely cared about the work. I coordinated programs, met with community leaders, approved budgets for after-school activities and food banks and medical assistance. I was good at it, better than I expected. Because Victor had been right, I understood the people we helped because I'd been them. I knew what they needed because I'd needed it too. Nico checked in weekly, sometimes in person at the office, sometimes via phone. Always professional, always appropriate, but with an undercurrent of something more. The way his eyes lingered on me, the way he asked about Sofia with genuine interest, the way he remembered details I'd mentioned in passing. 3 weeks into my new job, Sofia got sick. Not dangerous, just a bad cold, but enough that she couldn't go to school. I stayed home with her, working remotely, checking her temperature every few hours. At 2 p.m., someone knocked on our apartment door. Through the peephole, I saw Nico, dressed more casually than I'd ever seen him. Dark jeans, a black sweater, looking almost human without the suit armor. I opened the door. "What are you doing here?" Preparing and narrating this type of story took us long efforts and hard work. So, if you are enjoying the story, please consider subscribing to our channel. Victor mentioned Sofia was ill. I thought she might like these. He held up a bag from the American Girl store. Books about women in science. I remembered she liked space. Sofia appeared behind me, wrapped in a blanket, nose red. "Mr. Santoro." "Hello, Sofia." His voice gentled in a way I'd never heard. "I heard you weren't feeling well." "I have a cold. It's not serious. Mommy gave me medicine." "Medicine is important." He crouched to her level. "These are for you. For when you're feeling better." Sofia took the bag with reverence, pulling out books about Marie Curie, Sally Ride, Mae Jemison. Her eyes went wide. "These are real scientists. The best scientists," Nico agreed. "Just like you'll be someday." My daughter beamed at him, and something in my chest cracked open. This man, this dangerous, complicated man, had remembered a casual comment about Sofia's interests and bought her educational books because she had a cold. "Would you like to come in?" I asked before I could stop myself. He glanced at his watch, expensive, understated, then nodded. For a few minutes. He sat on our new couch while Sofia showed him her room, chattering about the solar system mobile we'd hung and the periodic table poster she'd insisted on putting up. He listened with complete attention, asking intelligent questions, treating her like a person worth taking seriously. When Sofia went to the bathroom, Nico turned to me. "You're doing well at the foundation. The feedback has been excellent. I like the work. It feels meaningful." "It is meaningful. You've already improved program retention by 15%. You're tracking metrics?" "I track everything that matters." His dark eyes held mine. "How are you, Lily? Really?" The question caught me off guard. Nobody asked how I was. Nobody cared beyond the surface. "I'm good. Better than good. This apartment, the job, Sofia being safe, it's more than I ever hoped for. But nothing. I'm grateful. Gratitude isn't the same as happiness." I looked away. "I'm learning to trust it, waiting for the catch." "There is no catch." He leaned forward. "I told you this is correction. The world took something from me I can never get back. But I can make sure other children don't suffer the same way, that their mothers don't break themselves trying to survive. Is that all we are to you? A memorial to your daughter?" The words came out sharper than I intended. Nico's expression flickered. "At first," he admitted. "But no, not anymore." "What are we then?" "I'm still figuring that out." Sofia returned with her new books, and the moment passed. But something had shifted between us, an acknowledgement of the thing we'd both been pretending didn't exist. When Nico left an hour later, Sofia hugged him goodbye without prompting. He stood in our doorway, awkward and touched, his hand hovering over her head, before gently patting her hair. "Feel better, Piccola." After he left, Sofia looked at me with those two wise eyes. "I like Mr. Santoro. He's nice." "He is nice. Do you think he's lonely?" The question surprised me. "Why would you think that?" "Because he looks sad sometimes. Like when people talk about families. My 6-year-old daughter, seeing things adults tried to hide. Maybe he is," I said softly. "Maybe we all are sometimes." That night, I lay in my comfortable bed in my safe apartment, listening to Sofia breathe easily in her own room, and thought about Domenico Santoro, about the man who'd given us everything, about what he might want in return, about whether I was brave enough or foolish enough to find out. The threat came 3 days later. I was at the office, reviewing grant applications, when Victor appeared in my doorway looking tense. "Lily, we need to move you. Now." "What? Why?" "Someone made inquiries about you. About Sofia. Mr. Santoro believes it's connected to one of his business rivals. It's probably nothing, but he's not taking chances." My blood turned to ice. "What kind of inquiries?" "Where you live, where Sofia goes to school. Your routine." All the security I'd felt evaporated in an instant. "Is she safe?" "She's at school." "Already handled. Security team picked her up 10 minutes ago. She's safe, Lily, I promise. I need to see her. She's waiting in Mr. Santoro's car downstairs, but we need to go now." I grabbed my purse and followed Victor, my heart hammering. In the underground garage, the familiar black SUV was parked with its engine running. I yanked open the back door. Sofia sat in a booster seat, looking confused but not frightened. Nico was beside her, his expression dark with barely controlled fury. "Mommy!" Sofia reached for me. I climbed in, pulling her into my arms. "Baby, are you okay?" "I'm fine. Mr. Santoro said we're going on an adventure." Over Sofia's head, I met Nico's eyes. "What's happening?" "I'll explain everything. But first, we need to get you somewhere secure." The SUV pulled out, flanked by 2 other vehicles. A convoy, protection, or a prison. I held my daughter close and watched the city blur past, wondering what price I was about to pay for accepting help from a dangerous man. Wondering if I'd just traded one kind of danger for another. Wondering if I'd made the biggest mistake of my life, or the only choice that could save it. The convoy drove north, away from the city center, and into suburbs I'd never seen except in magazines. Massive homes set back from tree-lined streets, gates and security systems, the kind of neighborhood where poverty was something that happened to other people in other zip codes. We turned onto a private drive, passed through iron gates that opened automatically, and continued up a winding road until a house, no, an estate came into view. Stone and glass and sprawling architecture that looked like it belonged in a European villa magazine, manicured grounds, a fountain in the circular driveway, security cameras visible on every corner. Sofia pressed her face to the window. "Mommy, is this a castle?" "Something like that, baby." The SUV stopped at the front entrance. Nico got out first, then helped Sofia down with surprising gentleness. I followed, my legs unsteady. "Welcome to my home," Nico said. "You'll be safe here." A woman appeared in the doorway, late 50s, elegantly dressed, with kind eyes that immediately assessed Sofia and me with professional efficiency. "This is Rosa," Nico said. "She manages the household." "Rosa, this is Lily Chen and her daughter Sofia." "Welcome," Rosa said warmly. "I've prepared rooms for you. Sofia, would you like to see? There's a library with lots of science books." Sofia looked at me for permission. I nodded, not trusting my voice. Rosa led Sofia inside, chattering about the house and the grounds, and I was suddenly alone with Nico in the fading afternoon light. "Inside," he said quietly. "We need to talk." I followed him through marble foyers and past rooms that looked like museum exhibits, all expensive furniture and artwork that probably cost more than I'd earn in a lifetime. He led me to a study, all dark wood and leather and floor-to-ceiling bookshelves. He closed the door and turned to face me. 3 hours ago," he said without preamble, "one of my associates reported that Carlo Messina's people were asking questions about you. Who you are, where you live, your connection to me. Who's Carlo Messina?" "A rival. We've been in territorial disputes for years over waterfront development rights. He's dangerous, vindictive, and very good at finding pressure points." Understanding crashed over me. "I'm a pressure point. You work for my foundation. That makes you part of my organization. And Messina knows that hurting my people is the fastest way to provoke a response. So this is my fault, for taking your job." "No." His voice was steel. "This is Messina's fault for being the kind of man who targets civilians. And it's my responsibility because I brought you into my world without adequately protecting you." I sank into one of the leather chairs, my mind racing. What does he want? Leverage, information, a way to hurt me. Nico poured amber liquid from a crystal decanter whiskey, probably older than I was, and downed it in one swallow. "I won't let that happen." "So what now? We hide here forever?" "For now, yes. Until I resolve the situation." "Resolve it how?" His expression went cold. "You don't want those details." "Yes, I do. If my daughter is in danger because of your business rivals, I deserve to know exactly what you're planning." Nico studied me for a long moment. Then he sat in the chair across from mine, close enough that I could smell his cologne, cedar, and something darker. "Messina operates several fronts in the city. Construction, waste management, some legitimate shipping. He's been pushing into territories my family has controlled for 3 generations. Last month, one of his crews vandalized a community center we fund. 2 weeks ago, someone torched a warehouse containing supplies for our food bank programs. He's escalating. He's testing boundaries, seeing how far he can push before I push back. And targeting me is his next test." "Yes, but he miscalculated." Nico's voice went lethal. "He assumed you were just an employee. He doesn't understand that anyone under my protection becomes untouchable. That threatening you and Sofia isn't a test, it's a declaration of war." The possessiveness in his voice should have frightened me. Instead, it sent a shiver of something else down my spine. Something I didn't want to examine too closely. What happens in this war? I asked. I make it clear that you're off limits. That Sofia is off limits. That anyone who even thinks about approaching either of you will face consequences they won't survive. You're talking about killing people. I'm talking about protecting what's pure. Mine. We're not yours, Nico. He leaned forward, his dark eyes boring into mine. Aren't you? The question hung between us, heavy with implications I wasn't ready to face. I gave you a job, I said weakly. That doesn't give you ownership. No, but this does. He gestured around the study, toward the house beyond. You're in my home, under my roof. Sofia is playing in my library. You came to me for help, and I gave it. That creates a bond, Lily, whether you acknowledge it or not. A bond or a debt. Protection isn't debt, it's investment. In what? In a future where Sofia grows up safe. Where you don't spend every night terrified of losing her. Where people like Messina learn that some targets bring down consequences they can't survive. I stood, needing distance. Walked to the window that overlooked perfectly manicured gardens. I can't live here forever. Not forever. Just until it's safe. And if it's never safe? If your world is always this dangerous? Silence. When I turned back, Nico was watching me with an expression I couldn't read. Then you'll have to decide, he said quietly, if the safety I can provide is worth the danger that comes with it. Rosa showed us to a suite on the second floor, 2 bedrooms connected by a sitting room, all decorated in soft neutrals, with enough space to hold 3 of our old apartments. Sofia's room had been prepared with startling foresight. Science posters on the walls, a telescope by the window, shelves stocked with books about astronomy and biology. Mr. Santoro asked me to prepare something suitable, Rosa explained. He mentioned Sofia's interests. Of course he had, because Nico noticed everything, remembered everything, used information like other people used currency. Sofia was enchanted. She explored every corner, exclaiming over the telescope and the books, and the window seat that overlooked gardens where actual peacocks wandered across the lawn. Mommy, can we stay here forever? Just for a little while, baby. But it's so beautiful, and Mr. Santoro is so nice. Nice. That wasn't the word I'd use for a man who spoke casually about making people face consequences they wouldn't survive. But to Sofia, he was the kind man who'd bought her medicine and books, and given us safety when we had none. She wasn't entirely wrong. That night, after Sofia fell asleep in her enormous bed surrounded by new books, I stood at the window of my room and stared out at the estate. Lights glowed across the grounds. Security patrol. I could see them moving in pairs, alert and armed. This was my life now. Luxury and danger wrapped together like lovers. A soft knock at the door. Come in. Nico entered, still in his suit but with his jacket removed, sleeves rolled to his forearms. He looked tired, I realized. Shadows under his eyes that matched my own. She's asleep? He asked, like a rock. The telescope was a nice touch. Every child should have the tools to explore what interests them. He moved to stand beside me at the window, close enough that I could feel his warmth. How are you? Terrified, angry, grateful, confused. Pick one. All valid responses. We stood in silence, watching the darkness beyond the glass. Tell me about Gianna, I said softly, his shoulders tensed. Why? Because you're using her memory to justify protecting us. I want to know who she really was. For a long moment, I thought he wouldn't answer. Then, she was light, pure light, curious about everything, fearless in the way children are before the world teaches them caution. She loved butterflies and collecting rocks and asking impossible questions. His voice roughened. She had her mother's smile. Her mother died when Gianna was 3 cancer, and after that, it was just us. Me and my little girl against the world. What happened at the party? She was 8. Her best friend's birthday. I'd checked the ingredients list for the cake 3 times, but someone's aunt brought cupcakes at the last. Too minute. Peanut oil in the frosting, not listed anywhere. He paused. Gianna took 1 bite. We had the EpiPen. I administered it perfectly, and it failed. Manufacturing defect, they recalled that entire batch 2 months later. Too late for my daughter. My throat tightened. I'm so sorry, Nico. I held her while we waited for the ambulance, watched her struggle to breathe, felt her body go still in my arms, and I couldn't do anything. All my money, all my power, all my connections useless. He turned to face me, and in the dim light, I saw the raw grief he usually kept locked away. So yes, Lily, I'm using her memory to justify protecting you, because I couldn't save my daughter, but I can save yours. I can make sure Sofia doesn't become another preventable tragedy. And if that makes me selfish or manipulative or whatever you want to call it, I don't care. Without thinking, I reached up and touched his face. His jaw was rough with 5 o'clock shadow, and beneath my palm, I felt him go completely still. It's not selfish, I whispered. It's beautiful. Something in his eyes ignited. He caught my hand, pressing it more firmly against his face, and for one suspended moment, we stood frozen in that charged space between friends and something infinitely more dangerous. Lily, he breathed, if I kiss you right now, there's no going back. You understand that? My heart hammered. No going back to what? To the comfortable fiction that this is just about charity, just about protecting Sofia, that you're simply an employee and I'm simply your boss. What is it about then? This. He pulled me closer, his other hand spanning my waist. Us. The thing that's been building since the moment I saw you in that pharmacy, desperate and fierce and refusing to break. The thing I've been trying to ignore because you deserve better than a man like me. Maybe I don't want better. Maybe I just want someone who sees me. I see you, Lily Chen. Every stubborn, brilliant, beautiful piece of you. He kissed me. Not gentle, not tentative, a claiming kiss that sent electricity racing through my veins. His hands tangled in my hair, and I gripped his shoulders, feeling the solid strength of him, the barely controlled power that thrummed beneath his skin. When we finally broke apart, both breathing hard, he rested his forehead against mine. We shouldn't do this, he said. You're vulnerable, under my protection. It's not right. I'm not that vulnerable anymore. You made sure of that. You're still in danger because of me. And I'm still choosing this. Choosing you. I met his dark eyes. I'm terrified of you, Nico. Of what you do, who you are, the world you live in. But I'm more terrified of going back to who I was before the woman who couldn't save her daughter, couldn't afford medicine. I couldn't see a future beyond survival. I can't promise you a normal life. I don't want normal. I want safe. I want Sofia to grow up without fear. I want to stop drowning. I took a shaky breath. And I want you. God help me. I want you. He kissed me again. Slower this time. Thorough and devastating. When he pulled back, his control was fracturing around the edges. I need to go, he said roughly. Before I forget every reason this is a bad idea. Maybe it's not a bad idea. Maybe it's the only honest thing between us. Honest. He laughed, a sound without humor. Lily, I've lied to you from the beginning. About my businesses, my methods, the things I've done. You think you know who I am, but you don't. Not really. So tell me. Show me. And if what you see makes you run, then I run. But let me make that choice with full information. Nico stared at me for a long moment. Then he nodded slowly. Tomorrow. I'll show you exactly who I am and what I do. And then you can decide if you still want this. He left before I could respond, the door clicking shut behind him with terrible finality. I sank onto the bed, my lips still tingling from his kiss, my heart racing with equal parts desire and dread. Tomorrow I'd see the truth. Tomorrow everything would change. Morning came too quickly. I woke to find Sofia already dressed and eating breakfast with Rosa in a sun-drenched dining room that could seat 20. Mommy. Rosa made pancakes shaped like planets. I smiled, trying to hide my exhaustion. That's wonderful, baby. Nico appeared in the doorway, freshly showered and dressed in a suit that probably cost more than our old apartment's yearly rent. His eyes met mine with an intensity that made me remember last night's kiss in vivid detail. Good morning. Lily, when you're finished, I'd like to show you the rest of the estate. It wasn't really a question. I kissed Sofia's forehead. I'll be back soon. You stay with Rosa, okay? Okay. We're going to look at the peacocks after breakfast. Outside, Nico led me past the main house toward a separate building partially hidden by trees. Modern architecture, all glass and steel, completely at odds with the classical main estate. What is this? My office, where I conduct the business I don't want in the main house. He punched a code into a keypad, and heavy doors slid open. Where Sofia will never come. Where the dangerous side of my world stays contained. Inside was sleek and high-tech multiple computer screens, a conference table, filing cabinets that probably held information worth killing for, Two men in suits stood as we entered, both built like professional fighters. "Out," Nico ordered. They left without question. He gestured to a chair. I sat, my stomach knotting. "You wanted to know who I am," he said. "What I really do." He opened a laptop, turned it toward me. The screen showed financial records, shipping manifests, import documents, and transaction logs. Santoro Imports moves cargo through the port of Chicago. Legitimate goods, furniture, textiles, electronics. But we also move other things. Cash, art that shouldn't cross borders. Occasionally, items for clients who value discretion. You're smuggling, among other things. He clicked to another screen. We own 17 restaurants. 14 are profitable, legitimate businesses. 3 are laundering operations for cash-heavy enterprises. Drug money? Sometimes. More often, money from construction contracts, union dealings, political contributions that need to be obscured. My mouth went dry. This was so much worse than I'd imagined. Not just organized crime at scale. The community programs. I asked. The foundation. Is any of it real? All of it is real. Every dollar we spend on those programs is legitimate, traceable, clean. Because I meant what I said. Lily, I want to help people. The foundation is how I balance the scales. You can't balance murder and charity. I don't commit murder. I eliminate threats. He clicked to security footage, grainy, black and white. Men loading crates in a warehouse. This is Messina's operation. He's been moving opioids through the port, flooding neighborhoods with poison. Last year, 3 teenagers in communities we support died from overdoses traced to his supply. The screen changed. More footage. A confrontation. Violence too quick to fully process. That was last night, Nico said quietly. I sent a message. Messina's warehouse burned. His distributors were discouraged from continuing operations in our territories. Discouraged. Hospitalized. They'll live. They'll remember. I wanted to look away. Wanted to run. But I'd asked for the truth. And cowardice now would dishonor that request. You're showing me this because you want me to understand, I said slowly. That you're not a hero. You're just a different kind of dangerous. I'm showing you this because I need you to decide if you can live with who I am. Not who you want me to be, or who I pretend to be over breakfast with Sofia. But this, he gestured at the screens. The man who makes people disappear when they threaten. What's mine? The man who burned down empires if it means keeping you safe. That's not love, Nico. That's obsession. Maybe, but it's honest obsession. I warned you from the beginning I don't do anything halfway. If you're mine completely. Protected absolutely. And yes, that means anyone who threatens you faces consequences they won't survive. I stood, needing movement, needing air. Walked to the window that overlooked the grounds where Sofia played with peacocks, innocent and unaware of the darkness surrounding her. I can't be part of this. You're already part of it. The moment you took my money, accepted my job, brought Sofia into my home, you became part of my world. Then I'll leave. Take Sofia and disappear. Messina already knows about you. Running won't make you safer. I whirled on him. So I'm trapped. Is that what you're saying? Stay here and become complicit in your crimes? Or leave and risk my daughter's life? I'm saying you have a choice. His voice was steel. Stay under my protection, accept what I am, and build a life where Sofia is safe and cared for. Or leave, and I'll provide enough resources to start somewhere new. New identities, new city, enough money to disappear. I'll even eliminate the Messina threat before you go. And if I stay, then you're mine. Fully, completely, with no illusions about who I am or what I do. You'll live in my world, benefit from my protection, and yes, you'll have to make peace with the fact that the man you're with has blood on his hands. The choice was impossible. Stay with a criminal who'd shown me more kindness than anyone in my life, or flee into uncertainty with a daughter who'd already been through too much upheaval. I need time. You have until Messina makes his next move. Could be days, could be hours, but when he does, you need to be somewhere safe. Either here or gone. I turned back to the window, watching Sofia's laughter carry across the lawn. She was so happy here, so safe. At what cost? The decision was taken from me that afternoon. I was in my room, pacing and trying to think clearly, when Victor burst through the door without knocking. They took her. My blood turned to ice. What? Sofia. She was with Rosa in the garden. Messina's people came over the back wall, 4 of them. Armed, professional. Rosa tried to stop them. She's injured but alive. The world tilted. Where's Nico? Already mobilizing. He's locked onto their location through traffic cameras. They're heading to Messina's estate in Oak Park. I was moving before thought, running down the stairs. Victor behind me shouting something I didn't hear. The front door burst open as I reached it. Nico stood there, flanked by 6 men in tactical gear, his face a mask of cold fury that promised death. "I'm coming with you," I said. "No. She's my daughter. I'm coming. Lily, this is going to get violent. I don't care. Either I come with you or I get there myself. Your choice." He stared at me for 1 second, 2, then nodded sharply. "Get her a vest. She stays in the vehicle until I clear the building." We piled into SUVs, 3 of them, filled with armed men who looked like they'd done this before. I was in the lead vehicle with Nico, my hands shaking so badly I had to clench them into fists. "Is she hurt?" I whispered. "No. Messina wants her alive. She's only valuable as leverage. And when we get her back, what happens to him?" Nico's expression was arctic. "He stops being a problem. The drive took 20 minutes, that felt like 20 hours. Nico was on his phone the entire time, receiving updates, issuing orders in Italian that sounded like battle commands. "Rosa's in surgery," he said at one point. "She'll be fine. She fought like hell to protect Sofia." Guilt crashed over me. This is my fault. I should never have. This is Messina's fault, and mine for not anticipating his move. His hand found mine, squeezed once. "We'll get her back, Lily. I promise you that. And if you can't, then Messina dies, his entire organization burns, and I spend the rest of my life hunting every person who touched her. But it won't come to that." His certainty should have been reassuring. Instead, it terrified me, this man who would wage war for my daughter, who spoke of burning organizations like discussing the weather. We pulled up 2 blocks from a massive house hidden behind high walls. Nico's phone lit up with blueprints, security camera feeds, heat signatures showing occupants inside. 8 hostiles, plus Messina. Sofia's in the east wing, 2nd floor. 2 guards on her. He looked at me. "Stay here. I'll bring her out." "Nico, I'll bring her out, Lily. I swear it." He kissed me hard and fast and desperate, then he was gone, moving with his team toward the estate with lethal purpose. I sat in the SUV, bulletproof vest heavy on my chest, and prayed to a God I'd stopped believing in years ago. Please, please let my daughter be okay. Please let me have made the right choice. Please let this end without destroying what's left of my soul. 15 minutes of silence, then gunfire. The sound ripped through the quiet suburban street, sharp cracks that sent birds exploding from trees and made my heart stop. The driver beside me tensed but didn't move, his hand resting on his weapon, eyes scanning the perimeter. "What's happening?" My voice came out strangled. "Boss is handling it. That's my daughter in there, and Mr. Santoro will get her out. He doesn't fail." More gunfire, then silence so thick it felt suffocating. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "Come to the front door. Alone. Or I start removing your daughter's fingers." I showed it to the driver. His face went white. "Don't. It's a trap. Mr. Santoro will—" I was out of the SUV before he finished speaking, running toward the estate's front gate. Behind me, the driver shouted into his radio, but I didn't stop. Couldn't stop. Sofia was in. There. Some monster had my baby and was threatening to hurt her. Nothing else mattered. The front gate stood open, unusual. Wrong. I ran through it, up the circular driveway, toward the massive front doors that hung ajar. "Lily, stop!" Nico's voice, from somewhere inside. Furious, terrified, I pushed through the doors into a marble foyer that looked like a war zone. 2 bodies on the floor, blood pooling beneath them. Bullet holes in the walls. The acrid smell of gunpowder. And standing at the top of a grand staircase, holding a gun to Sofia's head, was a man who could only be Carlo Messina. He was 60, maybe, with silver hair and expensive clothes now spattered with blood. His face was twisted with rage, and something darker, the desperation of a man with nothing left to lose. Sofia was crying silently, tears streaming down her face, her small body rigid with terror. When she saw me, her mouth opened. "Mommy." "Quiet," Messina snapped, pressing the gun harder against her temple. Sofia whimpered. "Let her go." My voice was surprisingly steady. "Please. She's just a child. Just a child who Santoro values, which makes her very valuable indeed." His eyes found something behind me. "Don't move, Domenico, or her daughter's brains decorate my wall." I turned slightly. Nico stood in a doorway to my left. Blood on his shirt, his or someone else's. I couldn't tell. His weapon was raised, trained on Messina, but his hands were shaking. I'd never seen him look like this, absolutely terrified. "Carlo," he said, voice tight with forced calm. "This isn't necessary. Let the child go. Your fight is with me. My fight is with you taking everything I built, my territory, my contracts, my respect." Messina's hand trembled, making the gun waver against Sofia's head. "You think you can push me out of Chicago? After 30 years? After everything I've sacrificed? This isn't about territory. You targeted innocents. You broke the rules." "Rules?" Messina laughed bitterly. "You lecture me about rules while you burn my warehouses? While you hospitalize my people? After you sent them into neighborhoods with poison that killed children? After you vandalized community centers? After you—" Nico's voice cracked. "After you took a 6-year-old girl to use as a weapon. And it worked. Look at you, the great Domenico Santoro, brought to his knees by one small girl." Messina's eyes found mine. "Come up here, Miss Chen. Slowly." "Don't," Nico said. "Lily, please. He has my daughter." I climbed the stairs, each step an eternity. Messina's gun never wavered from Sofia's head. When I reached the landing, he grabbed my arm, yanked me close enough that I could smell his cologne mixed with sweat and fear. "Perfect. Now we're all together." He raised his voice. "Santoro, you want them to live? You're going to walk out of here. Take your men and leave Chicago. Permanently. You know I can't do that. Then I start shooting. Maybe the mother first, so the child can watch. Or maybe the child, so the mother can live with it. Your choice." Nico's face had gone completely white. Behind him, I could see his men in tactical positions, weapons ready, but none of them had a clean shot. Not with Sofia and me so close to Messina. This was checkmate. One wrong move and Sofia died. "Carlo," Nico said softly, "I'm going to set down my weapon." "Don't." "I'm setting it down." He placed his gun on the floor, kicked it away, raised his hands. "There. I'm unarmed. Let them go." "You think I'm stupid?" "The moment I release them, your men kill me." "Then what do you want?" "Name it." "Anything." "I want my life back. My business. My reputation." Messina's voice broke. "I want my son back." Silence, heavy and terrible. "Your son?" Nico asked quietly. "Tomas. He was working that warehouse you burned. Your people told him to run, but he tried to save the product. He was 23 years old, and he burned to death trying to prove himself to me. Oh God, this wasn't about territory or respect. This was about grief. A father who'd lost his child, just like Nico had lost Gianna. "I didn't know," Nico said, and something in his voice had changed. "Carlo, I swear I didn't know your son was in that building. We cleared it, made sure everyone was out before he went back in, because you and I taught our children that weakness is death, that you never abandon your responsibilities, even if it costs you everything." Tears were streaming down Messina's face now, and it cost him everything. "My boy is dead because of you." "I'm sorry." Nico's voice was raw. "I'm truly sorry. But Carlo, these children didn't kill your son. I did. Let them go and take me instead." "You think your life is a fair trade for Tomas?" "No, nothing is a fair trade, but they're innocent." Messina's gun trembled against Sofia's head. My daughter was sobbing now, her small body shaking. I met her eyes, tried to send her all my love, all my strength. "I love you, baby," I whispered. "Be brave." "Mommy, I'm scared." "I know. But Mr. Santoro is going to fix this. He promised to keep us safe, remember?" Something flickered across Messina's face at those words. He looked at Nico, really looked at him. "She trusts you," he said. "This child trusts you to save her. The way Tomas trusted me to teach him right." His voice cracked. "And I taught him wrong. I taught him that pride mattered more than life, that the business was worth dying for." "You taught him loyalty," Nico said. "That's not wrong. It got him killed." Messina's hand was shaking harder now, the gun wavering. He was 23. He'd just gotten engaged. He wanted to go to college, study architecture, build beautiful things instead of destroying them, and I told him no. Told him he had a legacy to uphold. "Carlo, I killed my son. Not you. Me." The gun lowered slightly from Sofia's head. And now I'm about to kill someone else's child because I'm too broken to see another way out. There is another way. Nico took a step forward, hands still raised. Let them go. You and I can settle this. Whatever you need, territory, compensation, my life, we negotiate. But let the innocents walk away. If I let them go, I have nothing left to negotiate with. Yes, you do. You have my word. My oath on my daughter's memory that I will make this right. Nico's voice shook. Please, Carlo, don't make Gianna's death meaningless by repeating it. The name hung in the air. Messina blinked, recognition dawning. Your daughter. The one who died. Peanut allergy. Yes. How old? 8. Messina looked down at Sofia, who was staring up at him with terrified eyes. She was 6, small for her age. Fragile in the way children are when held at gunpoint by men who'd forgotten how to be human. I remember that day, Messina said quietly. The funeral. You were destroyed. Didn't speak for 6 months. When you came back, you were different, harder, but you started that foundation. Started helping sick kids. Because I couldn't save mine. Is that what this is? This girl, she's your second chance? She's not mine to save. But yes, she's a second chance to do right when I did wrong before. Nico's eyes met mine. They both are. Messina was silent for a long moment. Then, slowly, he lowered the gun from Sofia's head. Go, he said. Both of you. Now. I grabbed Sofia, pulled her against me, and stumbled down the stairs. Nico caught us at the bottom, his arms coming around us both, and for one heartbeat, we were safe. Then I heard the gunshot. I spun around. Messina stood at the top of the stairs, gun in his mouth, his eyes meeting Nico's one final time. For Tomas, he said, and pulled the trigger. Sofia screamed. I turned her face into my shoulder, but it was too late. She'd seen. We'd all seen. Nico's men rushed in, securing the scene, checking the body. But Nico didn't move. He stood frozen at the base of the stairs, staring at Carlo Messina's body with an expression I couldn't read. Grief, maybe, or recognition. The understanding that they'd both been broken fathers, trying to fix unfixable things, and only one of them had found a way to stop the cycle. The police came. Nico made phone calls, and suddenly everyone's story aligned perfectly. Messina had kidnapped Sofia. Nico had negotiated her release. Messina had taken his own life rather than face consequences. Self-defense. Justified response. The machinery of corruption and power working smoothly to paper over the complicated truth. We gave statements. Sofia, traumatized and shaking, told detectives about the scary men who'd taken her from the garden. I confirmed the kidnapping. Nico stood beside me the entire time, his hand never leaving the small of my back. By midnight, we were free to go. Rosa was out of surgery stable, recovering, already demanding to know if Sofia was safe. The peacocks were locked in their enclosure. The estate's security had been tripled. And I sat in Sofia's bedroom, watching my daughter sleep fitfully, her hand clutching mine even in dreams. Nico appeared in the doorway. She'll need therapy. We both will. I'll arrange the best child psychologist in Chicago. Trauma specialists. Whatever she needs. Money can't fix this, Nico. No, but it can provide tools to heal. He moved closer, sat on the edge of Sofia's bed. I'm sorry, Lily. For all of it. For bringing you into my world. For putting Sofia in danger. For you saved her. After putting her at risk. You talked a desperate man down from executing my daughter. You risked your life. You gave him an honorable exit that prevented more bloodshed. I met his eyes. You saved her, Nico. Whatever else happens, you saved her. And Messina is still dead. By his own hand. Making his own choice. You can't take responsibility for that. Can't I? My actions drove him to desperation. My war with him cost his son's life. Tonight's outcome was inevitable from the moment I decided he was a threat to be eliminated. I saw it then, the weight he carried. Not just tonight, but years of violence and choices and consequences. The burden of being Domenico Santoro, the man who protected what was his at any cost. You can't save everyone, I said softly. You couldn't save Gianna. You couldn't save Tomas. You can't even save Carlo from himself. But you saved Sofia, and Rosa, and me. That has to count for something. Does it? Does saving 3 lives balance against the dozens I've destroyed? I don't know. I'm not qualified to judge cosmic scorecards. I stood, moving to face him. But I know you're not a monster. Monsters don't cry at funerals. They don't build foundations to honor their dead daughters. They don't risk everything for a child they barely know. I barely knew her 3 months ago. Now. His voice caught. Now I can't imagine my life without either of you in it. Is that why you kissed me? Why you showed me your office? Your truth? Because you're trying to keep us? I showed you the truth because you deserved to know who you were falling for. And I kissed you because I'm selfish enough to want something good in my life, even though I don't deserve it. Maybe neither of us deserves good things. Maybe we're both too broken, too compromised, too damaged by our pasts. I moved closer. Or maybe we deserve good things precisely because we've survived so much bad. He touched my face, his thumb tracing my cheekbone. What are you saying, Lily? I'm saying I'm staying. Sofia and I were staying here, with you, in your dangerous, complicated world. Because tonight showed me that nowhere is really safe. Danger finds you whether you're in a mansion or a studio apartment. At least here, we have you. You're choosing this? Choosing me? After everything you saw today? I'm choosing safety for my daughter. I'm choosing a man who keeps his promises. I'm choosing someone who understands what it means to love a child so much you'd burn the world down to protect them. I pulled his hand to my chest, over my racing heart. And yes, I'm choosing you. The whole complicated, dangerous, beautiful mess of you. He kissed me then, and it tasted like tears and relief and desperate hope. When we broke apart, Sofia stirred in her sleep, whimpering. I moved to soothe her, and Nico stood, but I caught his hand. Stay, please. She trusts you. Maybe having you here will help her feel safe. So he stayed. The three of us, a broken mother, a damaged child, and a dangerous man who'd promised to protect them, huddled together in a bedroom worth more than most houses, while outside, the machinery of Chicago's underworld adjusted to the power vacuum Carlo Messina's death had created. Tomorrow, there would be consequences. Negotiations. New threats from people who saw weakness in Nico's attachment to us. But tonight, we were safe. Tonight, that was enough. 3 months later, Sofia's laughter echoed through the estate's library as she showed Nico her science fair project, a working model of the water cycle with LED lights and a tiny pump she'd assembled herself. And see, when the water evaporates here, it condenses in the clouds. And then, she pressed a button, and tiny blue lights simulated rain. Precipitation! Brilliant, Nico said, his pride genuine and undisguised. Your teachers are going to be amazed. Do you think I'll win first place? I think you'll win everything. She beamed at him, then ran off to show Rosa, who'd recovered fully and now ruled the estate with affectionate authority. I watched from the doorway, marveling at how normal this had become. How Sofia called Nico by his first name now, sought his approval, trusted him completely. How he'd learned to braid her hair and help with homework and patiently answer her endless scientific questions. How we'd become something like a family. The therapy had helped. Dr. Morrison, the child psychologist Nico had hired, was gentle and skilled. Sofia still had nightmares sometimes, still flinched at loud noises, but she was healing. We both were. The foundation work had expanded. I'd hired 3 new coordinators, opened programs in 2 more neighborhoods, secured grants that would fund after-school care for hundreds of kids. The work was meaningful, necessary, and untainted by Nico's darker business dealings. He'd kept those worlds separate, as promised. I knew he still did dangerous things, still dealt with dangerous people, but he kept it away from Sofia and me, away from the home we'd built together. Deep thoughts? Nico appeared beside me, his hand finding mine automatically. Just thinking about how different life is now. Better? So much better. Terrifying, complicated, morally ambiguous better. He laughed. I'll take that. We'd been officially together for 2 months. Nothing rushed, nothing forced, just a gradual deepening of what had started that night in my room. We hadn't told Sofia yet. She didn't need labels to understand that Nico loved her mother, that her mother loved him back. She just knew she was safe, protected. Home, Victor called, Nico said quietly. The Messina organization has been fully absorbed. His lieutenants accepted the terms. Chicago is stabilized. For now, he agreed. There will always be new threats, new rivals. That's the nature of this world. And we'll face them. We will. Together. Sofia came running back. Nico, come look at the telescope. I found Jupiter's moons. He let her drag him away, and I followed, watching this strange, beautiful family we'd cobbled together from desperation and danger and desperate hope. Was it perfect? No. Was it safe? Not completely. But it was ours, And that was everything. The chapel was small, intimate, filled with people who mattered. Rosa in the front row, crying happy tears. Victor standing as best man, looking uncomfortable in his formal tuxedo. Sofia as flower girl, taking her responsibilities very seriously as she scattered rose petals down the aisle. And me, in a simple white dress, walking toward the man who'd saved my daughter's life and somehow saved mine in the process. Domenico Santoro stood at the altar in a perfectly tailored suit, his eyes locked on mine, his expression open in a way I'd never seen in those early desperate days. When I reached him, he took my hands. "You're sure?" he whispered. "About all of this? I've never been more sure of anything." The officiant began the ceremony, traditional words about love and commitment and choosing each other every day. Words that meant something different for us, choosing each other despite the danger, despite the complications, despite all the very good reasons we shouldn't work. When it came time for vows, Nico spoke first. "Lily, when I met you, I was a man going through motions, living but not alive, protecting what was mine but loving nothing. You and Sofia changed that. You reminded me what I was fighting for, not territory or power, but the chance to make the world safer for one small girl who loves science and asks impossible questions." His voice roughened. "I promise to protect you both with everything I have, to keep the darkness away from our home, to be worthy of the trust you've placed in me, and to love you, completely and honestly, for as long as I breathe." My turn. I'd written vows, rewritten them, memorized and forgotten and started over. But standing here, looking at this complicated, dangerous, beautiful man, I spoke from my heart instead. "Nico, you terrified me. Everything you represented, wealth, power, danger, went against every survival instinct I'd developed. But you also saved me, not just with money or resources, but by seeing me, by seeing Sofia, by giving us not just safety but dignity." I squeezed his hands. "I promise to trust you, even when it's hard. To build a life with you that honors both where we came from and where we're going. To love you, not despite who you are, but because of it. All of it. The protector and the warrior, the philanthropist and the mafia boss, the man who keeps his promises, no matter what they cost." We exchanged rings, simple platinum bands engraved with coordinates. The spot where we'd first met, outside that pharmacy, where everything changed. "I now pronounce you husband and wife." Nico kissed me, and Sofia cheered, and Rosa sobbed, and for one perfect moment, the complicated, dangerous world fell away. We were just a family, broken pieces that fit together into something whole. Later, at the reception in our home now, legally and completely, Sofia pulled me aside. "Mommy, does this mean Nico is my dad now?" "He can be, if you want him to be. Or he can just be Nico. Whatever makes you comfortable." She thought about it seriously. I think I want to call him Dad. Is that okay? Even though my real dad isn't here? Your real dad gave up the privilege of that title. Nico earned it. So yes, baby. That's more than okay." That night, after guests left, and Sofia was asleep in her room, our room in our house, I found Nico on the balcony overlooking the gardens. He stood watching the city lights in the distance, a glass of whiskey in his hand. I wrapped my arms around him from behind. "Regrets? Never. You? Not one. Sofia wants to call me Dad." "I know," she told me. "Is that okay?" He turned to face me, and I saw tears tracking down his face. I never thought I'd be a father again. After Gianna, I thought that part of my life was over. And now? Now I have a brilliant daughter who wants to be an astronaut and asks me to help with her science homework. Who trusts me to protect her. Who calls me Dad. His voice broke. How did I get this lucky? We both got lucky. In the strangest, most impossible way. He kissed me slow and deep and full of promise. "Come to bed, Mrs. Santoro." I like the sound of that. Good. Because you're stuck with it now. Stuck with me. Stuck with this complicated, dangerous life. I can think of worse fates. We went inside together, leaving the balcony and the city and all its dangers behind. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new threats, new complexities to navigate. But tonight, we were just a family, safe in our home, together, and that was everything. Thank you so much for watching until the end. If you loved this story, check out the other videos on your screen now. I think you'll really enjoy them. And don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. See you in the next story.